Well, good evening. Thank you all for coming. My name is Megan Tooker. I am a proud Drake Law alum from the class of 2006, and I just want to welcome all of you here. I am so excited about today. You know, it's not every day that we get to honor a true legend and help our alma mater out at the same time. We will have a short program. Maybe it's not so short, I don't know. We're going to start with a special video message from Belize. And I think I'm asking Zach to come up here and help with that.
Make sure it's the right video. Carlos, did you have anything that you had to say real quick? Or Zafan?
I think it's on.
Yeah. All right, we can hear you.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. A pleasant good evening, everyone. For 8 years, I've walked down mud paths and dirt road with Jim Albert here in Belize. To reach what poor children live, Jim and I became brothers, working together all these years. I really wish I could be there in person with all of you this evening to represent thousands of children in Belize. Today is a very special day for Jim, as he recognizes and honor his dedication and commitment at Drake for 43 years. He truly deserves all what you are doing for him, and we thank you all. We love you, Jim, and we love all of you. And I'll take this time to introduce Zafan Smith, who is sitting on my right-hand side. Zafan is a senior at Bella Vista Orient High School here. He is one of our scholars on the scholarship program, the James Arthur Albert Foundation program, and he will be graduating in June of 2025. Zafan is a hardworking individual, very determined, and has a clear vision for his life ahead of him. Zafan.
A pleasant good evening to you all. My name is Zafan Smith. I am a senior at Bella Vista Government Secondary School. Now, we have it hard here in Belize. Our parents don't have the necessary finances to send us to school. But because of Professor Albert and the lawyers that are at Drake University, you guys support us with 3,000 scholarships for students. You guys also helped build one of the biggest high schools here in Belize. You extend the internet via satellite to rural villages across Belize in the Toledo district. You guys managed to build my cafeteria in 3 months, under 3 months. And it's a very large cafeteria, by the way. And I enjoy eating hungry. Thank you. Now, for the students of Belize, you guys need to add this, but I think they're asking pretty much. I mean, I'll say. Now, a little bit about myself. My mother abandoned me at a very young age, which led me to live with my possessive father. Things weren't always like that. I didn't have a dream. I was in the dark. But when I met Professor Albert, the legend himself, he brought me to the end of the tunnel where I can see light. He gave me a hope. He gave me a powerful dream. And that dream is that I want to be a lawyer. But I just don't want to be a lawyer. I want to go specifically at Drake University. And after that, I want to go at Drake Law School. This past year, I watched basically I study you guys. I found out you guys are a basketball team. I'm a big fan of basketball. So much I love your basketball games. As you can see, I already have the shirt. You can already. It is my great honor and appreciation that I thank the legend himself, Professor Albert, for giving not just me, but many students here at Belize dream, a powerful dream for the future. I want to be like you guys. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be champions. But I want to say that I am the first Belizean to become a lawyer champion at Drake University, at Drake Law School. And I'm planning, and I have a secondary goal too. I would like to be in the James Albert Foundation as well. And maybe I might be the president or vice president. Who knows? But eventually when I became a lawyer, I am going to outdo all of you guys. I'm going to donate the biggest money. I might donate half of my salary.
This is hard. Well, if anybody's going to make it happen that kid comes here to the law school, it's going to be Jim Albert, that's for sure. And I can't wait to see you here in Des Moines. That's going to be really something. All right, next up is our video.
Yes.
Okay.
About Belize.
Okay, thank you. Here's our Belize video.
Give them hope for the future.
Growing up in Belize is pretty rough. Thank you for helping me.
I have the chance to be what I want to be in the future.
Know that the help that you have been giving has inspired my daughter.
I'm very thankful to this scholarship. I learned that it doesn't matter what, you won't give up in life.
Thank you so much for your help.
My name is Tahira Chopam. I am 14 years old and I am so very happy to be in this scholarship because it helps me a lot and I need a lot and I appreciate it. Sometimes I struggle to do my work, but I try my best. The reason why the scholarship is important because I help other siblings too who also need things for their school. And if I will be the valedictorian, my dream is to go and study out country. In my future, I want to become a doctor and complete my doctorate degree. And I'm very thankful of having this scholarship. And I really appreciate it.
My name is Walter Kaal. I do my homework right there on the table and I sleep right there. That's why I love my dog because he lays eggs for me to have more little dogs. He tried to help me do my homework. I tried my best to be a valedictorian from Corazon Creek Technical High School. Thank you for my scholarship.
Since I was little, my father got in an accident where he lost one of his arms, so it was so hard, to be honest. My mother said that we couldn't go to school. She told us that she couldn't provide for us. Some people are kind enough to give us some things to eat. Then, thanks for the donors that they give us a scholarship. It really helped my family a lot. You have to walk with your foot for 2 hours, pass rivers when it's raining. Life hurt, but you know, like God's will, we will live. The donors helping us, I really appreciate it, and thank you.
Students who don't get scholarship here in Belize, they have to rely on their parents, which sometimes, most of the time, they can't afford to pay. So what that will leave them with two choices. One, to drop off of school and go work. Or two, they just get overwhelmed by the stress at home. They come to school, they don't perform well. So when you guys give the students scholarship, you guys not only help send them to school, but you also help them psychologically. You give them a dream or wish that they can accomplish in the future. You give them hope for the future. So you guys are doing a great job, and please, I beg you guys to keep it up for years to come.
We went back to our donors and asked them to reach down deep because we had other dreams for what we could do here.
The reason that this building is sitting there before you is because of you. It's just been an inspiring thing to be here.
Be prepared to accept the challenges and overcome those challenges, and you will be successful. We are your partner for as long as we are here, and we're going to work to make sure this is the best tourism center in all of Belize.
This is where I live. I just want to say a big thank you for my sponsors.
God bless you guys. Without this scholarship, I wouldn't have been attending school.
I have the chance to be what I want to be in the future
and become a pharmacist.
I'll try my best to do my school. We are going to be a role model for my siblings.
I really needed this scholarship, and thanks to you guys, I am able to be here now.
And I want to be somebody in my life in the future.
I just like to say as a mother that I'm very grateful for all the help that you guys have been giving.
They came to me and rescued me, and then they gave me a next opportunity.
I just want to thank you all for the help. As without it, I probably wouldn't be coming to school. I probably wouldn't be able to get an education. And I'm very grateful for that.
If there would not be an internet center, I don't know where we should have been trying to do our work.
My dream and my goal is big, especially now that I have sponsors. In the future, I would want to be a doctor.
And I'm very glad to be in James Arthur Albert's Foundation scholarship.
Receiving this scholarship is not just a financial relief. It is a vote of confidence, a belief in my potential. Your generosity is not only transforming my life, but has ripple effect that extend to my family, other students, and beyond.
Wherever I go, I will always mention you guys, and I'm so proud to be a scholar. Thank you. It's good.
Okay, next up is our current dean, Roscoe Jones.
You know, sometimes in life, we meet people who just get it. Sometimes you meet people who understand the ends of higher education. As educators, we hope to inspire you, not to have riches or fame or prestige or lofty titles or lofty positions. We hope that you will be people who will make a difference in this world. And sometimes in life, you meet a person who comes into your life and makes you walk a little bit taller, makes you dream a little bit more, who helps you to understand that the end of your education isn't about you. It's about someone else. Someone who makes you cry, who makes you laugh, who's there in the good times and the bad times, who tells you stories. 75% of them may or may not be true. But someone who you know cares about each and every one of you. Jim, we are so damn lucky to have you here at this law school. We are so proud of you, and I want you to know that. You look around this room, It's the love for who you are and how you have transformed lives. And that is the end of higher education. To transform the lives of individuals, to transform lives of communities. You do that every single day. We appreciate you. Today we gather to honor Professor Jim Albert by dedicating Classroom 213 in his name. To dedicate this room is to honor a life lived in service to others, a life that has profoundly shaped the hearts and minds of students, colleagues, and communities near and far. I first want to acknowledge two other very remarkable individuals. Pat Waldron, partner at Patterson Law Firm, Megan Tucker, counsel for the Chief Justice of the Iowa Supreme Court, whose support and leadership made this moment possible. Thank you. For those of us who know Jim, we know that Professor Albert is more than just a professor. He is a force for good. He is a mentor. He is an inspiration to everyone who's fortunate to cross his path. From the moment that he joined the law school in 1981, Jim set out not just to teach, but to transform lives. His areas of expertise, from administrative law to torts, are impressive in their own rights. But that's not what makes Jim truly exceptional. What really makes him exceptional is his commitment to helping students become not only successful lawyers, but people of integrity, compassion, and purpose. There is a saying that the greatest use of a life is to spend it on something that will outlast it. Jim, when I think of you, that's what I think of. Your career has been a testament to the belief that the true impact of a life well lived is not found in personal achievements, but in how we touch the lives of others. And Jim has touched countless lives through his teaching, his mentorship, his service, his generosity. And don't just take my word for it. Jim's own students, and there's many of you who are in this room today, will tell you that he doesn't just prepare you for the legal profession. He prepares you for life. He guides you, he supports you, he challenges you, and he helps you to find your own individual paths to success. Many of you have landed jobs and clerkships and positions of influence thanks to Jim. His dedication, his advocacy, his belief in each and every one of you. This is what it means to live a life for others, to see potential in people, to nurture that potential, and to ensure that they can realize it. One of the many ways that Jim has shaped students' lives is through his work as a faculty advisor for Delta Theta Phi and the undergraduate fraternity Theta Chi. His leadership with these organizations speaks volumes about his dedication to mentoring not just future lawyers, but young people at pivotal moments in their lives. And for decades, Jim has helped young people see beyond themselves and understand the importance of living a life dedicated to helping others. Jim has earned countless accolades, and many of those you will hear about today. But these awards are not the true measure of the man. Jim's real legacy lives on in the students he has mentored, the lives he has changed, and the ripple effect of his service. His service goes far beyond the boundaries of a classroom. As the longest-serving chair of the Iowa Ethics and Campaign Disclosure Board, Jim has set the standard for integrity in public service. Since 1997, he has been appointed and reappointed by governors from both sides of the aisle, and for good reason. Jim embodies fairness, wisdom, and a deep commitment to ethical governance. Jim's heart for service extends far beyond the borders of even Iowa. His work in Belize, where his foundation has awarded over 3,200 scholarships to children of color so they can attend high school, is perhaps maybe the greatest example of his commitment to living a life for others. Think about that. 3,200 children whose futures have been forever changed because of Jim's generosity. Jim's impact in Belize reminds us that the most meaningful work we can do is often the work that doesn't make headlines. It's the quiet, persistent effort to help others, to open doors for those who came after us, and to leave the world a little bit better than we found it. To always ask, how can I help? How can I serve? As we dedicate the James A. Albert Classroom today, we're not just honoring Jim's accomplishments, we're honoring his values. His belief that true success is measured not by what you achieve for yourself, but by what you give to others. This classroom will be a space where future generations of students will learn, will grow, and will be inspired. And they will do so in a room that bears the name of a man who's dedicated his life to lifting others up, helping them find their way, and making sure they leave the world better than they found it. Jim, your life is a shining example of what it means to live for others. On behalf of everyone here, thank you for your tireless dedication. Thank you for your compassion. Thank you for showing all of us what it means to live a life of purpose. You inspire us. Congratulations.
Okay, and now we have a special video from former Dean Anderson, who was unable to be here today.
Hello, everybody. This is Jerry Anderson, and I'm very sorry to miss the dedication of the Jim Albert Classroom, but I wanted to send my congratulations not only to Jim, but also to everybody who worked to make this possible. Of course, as a professor in my 33 years at Drake, I've observed Professor Albert's dedication to his students from across the faculty bay, but I really never fully realized his impact until I became dean. And as I went out and met with hundreds of alumni from across the country, I was frankly astounded at how many of them mentioned Jim as having been a profound influence not only on their careers, but also on their lives. Many would talk about how he helped them through rough times, or how he contacted someone to help them get a job interview, and how he continued to follow up even years later to see how they were doing. All the faculty at Drake, I think, see themselves as student-centered, and we're all dedicated to student success. But Jim seems to have taken that to a whole different level in a way that so many students and alumni appreciate. This dedication of the classroom also honors Jim's extraordinary public service to the state of Iowa. As chairman of the Ethics and Campaign Disclosure Board since 1997, which makes an amazing 27-year run at this point. It's a political appointment, so it's extraordinary that he has continued to be appointed by both Republicans and Democratic governors term after term. This board is not one of those glamour appointments They do really hard work week in and week out to keep our campaign system fair and honest, which, as we know, has never been more important. And of course, I've been impressed by Jim's work with the children of Belize. I've been frankly gobsmacked by the growth of his foundation and the outstanding work that they have done to improve the lives of so many of those children. Anyone who has attended one of his fundraisers will witness why it's been so successful. And it's because Jim Albert personally pours out his heart in a way that is really impossible to resist. Jim has spent many, many hours treading the wards of Room 213, touching so many lives. So it's entirely fitting and proper that this space should bear his name. And as you know, it would not have happened without the alumni who stepped up to put funding behind this effort. And so I want to thank Pat particularly, and Megan, and so many other alumni who spearheaded that effort, and everyone who contributed. It is much appreciated, and I know that the funds will make a big difference to Drake and our students. So thank you. Enjoy the celebration, Jim. You really deserve it. Thank you.
Okay, so Jim asked me to say a few words about how this whole project got started. So a couple years ago, I was at the law school, and Dean Anderson was one of my favorite professors, along with Jim, of course, and I stopped in to say hello, and it was right after one of the Belize auctions, and I mentioned to Dean Anderson I was sorry to see that he wasn't there, and he had some other important thing to do, of course. And so we got to talking about just how incredible it's been that Jim has built this foundation, and he is raising literally millions of dollars for children in Belize, and what an impact that's been, and that most of the people that he raises those funds with are Drake Law grads. And Dean Anderson said, you know, a lot of those folks don't give to their alma mater. And, you know, I can be guilty of that. I haven't always given to the school. And, you know, that got me thinking. And I just kind of blurted out. I said, well, you should name something after him. I bet those people would donate. And he said, that's a really good idea. He said, I'm going to talk to Jim about that. So when I was heading home, I called Jim, and I told him about our conversation, and he said, oh, they'll probably name the urinal after me or something. And I said, he seemed, you know, Anderson, he seemed really kind of excited about it. And I said, why don't you see how much it would cost to rename Cartwright? And he thought I was kidding. I was not kidding. You know, Wells Fargo can change names after 25 years to KC Center, and I figured there's got to be an expiration on that naming, right, or a rule against perpetuities or something like that. But Jim did not take that invitation seriously. So anyway, Dean Anderson said, I'm going to talk to Jim about that, and the two of them got to talking and quickly settled on how perfect it would be to name this classroom after Jim, because he has spent nearly every year teaching in this class. And so that made perfect sense. And Dean Anderson said, you know, if the alums can raise $75,000, we'll name the room after him. And there's a list of things that the school would like to do to improve the building. And you know, Jim doesn't take suggestions that well. So Dean Anderson said, you really got to get like 2 or 3 big donors to really give most of the money, because if you just do small contributions, it's going to take forever. It's going to take forever. And Jim said, no, we're not going to do that. He wanted this project to be a reflection of the decades of service that he's given. He wanted it to reflect all of us, not just 2 or 3 folks. And so he resisted that urge, and frankly, I'll tell you a little secret, we had some people that wanted to write big checks. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted it to be a real grassroots effort that reflected the decades of classes that have come through here. And so we put together a committee, and that was Pat Waldron, Zach Goodrich, who is the current director of the Ethics Board, class of 19, and me, and of course Jim. And Zach and I did kind of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Zach is incredible with a spreadsheet and can find anybody on Google or LinkedIn or anywhere else you might be hiding. And you know, Pat was the face and was asking people for contributions, and I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit about this was the easiest ask you could ever imagine. Virtually no one said no. People were excited about it. And so this came together really quickly, and our goal is $75,000. We're currently at $115,000, and I'm sure it's going to keep coming. We stopped trying, but people wanted to be a part of this. So I'm sure that number will continue to grow, which is just amazing, absolutely amazing. So I know Jim's really humbled by all of you being here, and it makes me think of a Maya Angelou quote that I've seen, and it says that, she said, people don't remember what you say, they don't remember what you do, but they remember how you made them feel. And Jim has certainly done a ton of things, and we've kind of touched on a lot of that. He graduated from Notre Dame Law School. He's taught here for 43 years and counting. He's been the Professor of the Year for 8 years. He's been a hell of a trial attorney. I saw that up close when I clerked with him at the Galligan Law Firm. He's been on the Ethics Board forever. And then somehow he found time to create this foundation and change the lives of thousands of children and impacted their families as well in Belize, which is absolutely amazing. But to be honest, we're not all here because of all those accomplishments. We're here because of how he made us feel when we were in law school. He made us feel like we belonged. He made us feel like we belonged in law school and at this particular law school, and he made us feel that we belonged in this profession. Law school is not for the faint of heart, and even though lawyers are known for having pretty healthy egos, I don't know a single lawyer who didn't have a few moments of crisis, who felt like they were imposters, or just thought at any minute somebody was going to tap them on the shoulder and say, this was a mistake and we didn't mean to admit you here after all. And, you know, that's where Jim came in. So many donors to this project, when they enthusiastically wanted to support this endeavor, shared funny and heartwarming stories, and I know Pat's going to touch on that. And it was because Jim lifted us up. He gave us those rare moments of levity in this classroom. He gave us a little refuge from the otherwise grind of law school at times. And he convinced us that we could handle the slog of law school and get on the other side and be lawyer champions. He didn't just teach us the law, but he taught us how to be good lawyers and good people. And so whenever we, struggled, he always had a helping hand. He made phone calls for us, reassuring words, and not just when we were in law school, but in the years and decades since. And so that's why we're all here, to honor his tireless dedication to this school and to all of us, and for believing in us when we didn't believe in ourselves. And so I'll leave you this one story of how he personally impacted my life. So when I was a third-year student, I interviewed with Justice Wright, who was on the court at the time, and I interviewed, and I didn't hear back for, it seemed like weeks, I don't know, it was a while. And I had given up hope. I thought, oh, I'm not going to get that clerkship. And just, you know, the stars lined up for me that Jim was hustling into the school one day, right before he had to teach class, goes into the dean's suite to check his mail, and it just so happened that Justice Streit was there, and he was talking to then Dean Walker. And I need to ask Justice Streit sometime. I have no idea why he was in the law school. He was not one to hang out at the law school, but it just happened that those two were there. And Jim was one of my references. He was a big advocate for me, wrote a very strong reference letter, made a phone call to Justice Streit. So Justice Streit knew that Jim was in my corner for that. And so Jim never wanted to mince words, and needing to get to class, he looks at Justice Streit and he said, have you hired Megan yet? And Justice Streit said, you know, I'm having trouble making a decision between her and a student from Iowa. And if you know Jim, you know what he thinks about the University of Iowa's law school. And he took that challenge seriously. He wasn't going to let me lose a position to somebody from the University of Iowa, right? And so he looks at Justice Streit, and if you know Justice Streit, he can take this. He says to Justice Streit, if you hire Megan, you'll be kissing my ass and sending me a fruit basket for Christmas. And if you know Dean Walker, Dean Walker is a gentleman, and he's probably never said a swear word in his life, certainly not to a sitting justice on the Supreme Court. And he was mortified. He was mortified that one of his professors said that. But I know this story because later that day, Justice Streit called me and offered me the job, and he told me that story. And so, you know, that's just, I tell you that because when Jim's in your corner, he doesn't just call and say, hey, she'd be good. He really put his whole intentions into helping me find that job. And that has been so meaningful to me. Along with Jim, Justice Streit is a lifelong mentor to me, and I'm forever grateful for how that turned out. So Jim is one of the funniest people I know. He's also one of the most dogged, and he's taught all of us to be dogged. So I'm going to invite Pat up here to say a few words, and once again, I just really appreciate all of you for being here.
Well, thank you, Megan. Thank you, Dean Jones. I feel a little bit like, for us trial lawyers that try cases, I feel a little bit like the old adage in opening statement, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them in evidence, and then in closing, tell them what you've told them. Because we all share the same feeling for you, Jim. And I got to say, I'm plenty nervous standing in front of this crowd. I mean, look around, right? I mean, you got to be proud of just who you've assembled here. This is, you can make a dream team out of this bunch, right? But that's a reminder. That feeling of nervousness, that feeling of angst, walking these halls of law school takes me back to when we all first walked these halls of law school. And most of us in those first few days had a real crisis of confidence, if you're anything like me. Everybody in law school seemed that much smarter, that much better, and self-doubt kind of prevailed. Then you meet Jim Albert, right? Isn't that true for most of us? You meet Jim Albert right here in this classroom. You witness his style. You witness his charisma, his plenty quirky personality, his humor. But more than anything, his belief in us when you're a first-year law student. He filled us with confidence. He filled us providing joy. Right here in this classroom, he made us feel 10 feet tall. And that's a big thing for me. He challenged us to be this lawyer champion. And we quickly learned James Albert is a fantastic lawyer. James Albert is the best teacher we've ever had. He exudes passion. This fantastic lawyer, this fantastic advocate, though, this incredible professor and teacher, is far more passionate about something more. And it's been said. What we would learn is that's the making of a lawyer champion. Jim's most passionate about improving the lives of others, changing lives, lending advocacy, lending compassion, hope, delivering well-timed advice and support. That's lasting. That's impactful. That's what Jim does. Impacts lives. His perfect words of motivation to each of us, inspiration, it's impacted how all of us view being a lawyer. He taught us we should all beam with pride about being a lawyer. It's a big deal. It's a gift and a privilege. For decades, he's been delivering that message of how proud we should be as lawyers, as Drake lawyers. What a motivator. His infectious spirit just impacts us all. I was reminded of that impact when Megan and I and Jim were sent responses and received phone calls about this easy ask. And I can just give you a sampling, otherwise we'd be here all night, but I want to read from a few of the responses we received when asking all of you for donations. First, an email from Constance Cohen that was right to the point. She's a 1986 law grad. Well, it's about time. She said that was her email. Well, it's about time. Christian Facilius, a 2010 grad, wrote this to Jim. Jim, I'll never forget the first day of law school. By 3 p.m., I was wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. Then you walked in the room, told us how bad it would be, and told us how good it would be after. I knew I would be okay. When you awarded me the top grade in torts class and then asked me to come work for you, it changed my life. I'll never forget you getting me my first job after graduation. You gave my family a life. I can never thank you enough. Thank you for being you. Or this one from 1984 grad Jim Graw. This is truly well-deserved recognition and honor that is richly earned. You were my first law professor in 1982. You made it fun, and we had fun together, but we learned. You taught us the law and showed us a passion for it. I have never forgotten those days and your guidance in helping me be the best lawyer that I now am. Well done. Ryan Rolfson, 1999 grad, wrote, what a great honor, so well deserved. No one contributed more to the development of Drake Law School in the last 100 years than Jim Albert. This email from Zach Goodrich. This is a fantastic way to honor Jim and all the work he's done and continues to do for Drake Law and its students. Jim is personally responsible for so many good things in my life. Classmate of mine, Dennis Mitchell, from 1995, wrote, Professor Albert has an outsized impact on many of us and our careers, including me. I have fond memories of not only going to his classes, but working with him on law review, and was lucky enough to have the chance to clerk with him on cases at the Galligan Law Firm. He was a terrific mentor and tremendously impacted me as a lawyer and a person. Amber Miller, a 2005 grad, wrote, Professor Albert, this absolutely made my day. The naming certainly, but the video. How do you look the same after all these years? I am forever grateful to you for all the fun, the laughter, and the work hard, play hard environment that you let us all play in for a while. And finally, from 1984 grad Michael Clarizio. I think he captures it well when he wrote to me and said, James Albert is the best professor, the best lawyer, the best mentor, and the best friend I have ever known. In this very room, he shared his brilliant legal mind, his funny, bone-tickling humor, and taught us resilience, the ability to bounce back and keep going no matter what the obstacles. He modeled for us how one man with a generous heart and a soul on fire, with a passion for improving the lives of others, can be enormously impactful. Whether we are sitting in this classroom or many miles far apart from you, know that you will forever be in our hearts. May God continue to richly bless him. Those emails are just a peek of the kind of response we got. And just a peek, Jim, over what you've done for 4 decades. And for many, you know, that'd be enough. That'd be enough. That's a career well spent. I heard my good friend Paul Carter, who flew here from California, and I've heard Megan introduce Jim many times at these Belize events, and they have a similar theme, and that is, this is a guy that doesn't stop. It's not enough. He's a guy that won't rest. He wants to continue to contribute. And while others your age, Jim, are finishing their golf round, hoping to get their pickleball on time, you just keep going. More proof. In preparing these remarks, I look back at an email I've saved from January of 2014, more than a decade ago. And it was a night before the James Albert Foundation event. And you might say, like someone did earlier, how in the hell does he do this? Well, here's a little peek, and many of you were on this email chain. Here's how he does it. He sends out this kind of thing. And I abbreviated this because you all know Jim. He can't write something that I could stand up here and read. But my friends, first I thought of this last night. While graduates at most law schools are reading the restatement and caring about whatever, you Drake lawyers, the Navy SEALs of lawyers, you are the only lawyers in the country that care enough to change the lives of impoverished children in Central America who sleep on dirt floors with thatched roof huts with no hope of becoming educated. Until Drake law students and Drake lawyers answered their dreams that somewhere in the world someone would come save them, no one did. But in just 4 years, we've awarded 375 year-long scholarships. We've added 200 more this year. That's what lawyer champions do. And that's exactly what each of you on this email is. The letters from the children, I think, will touch your hearts, he continued. They have no place else in the world to send those letters asking for a chance to go to high school, so they send them to Drake lawyers, to the Navy SEALs of lawyers. Then he says, let's show them what we've got. Let's have fun with this, roaring like lions. That email was over a decade ago, and as you've heard, that foundation has changed the lives of tens of thousands of families. Thousands of scholarships, college scholarships, tourism buildings, classrooms, internet center that never existed, and now a telemedicine clinic. Just answering need. And why? Because he visited one time and saw the need. That's all it took. Well, that email was a decade ago, and he continues. And he continues doing that while mentoring Drake law students and still mentoring all of us in this room, lawyers. It was never enough. On a personal note, when I was a third-year law student, my wife and I had our first child. Amidst all kinds of complications and worry, here was Jim Albert. He arrived with 2 things to visit my wife and I. First was a stuffed musical lamb that we still have. But the second was a message of real strong import. He said, don't worry, because someday your son will proudly declare to his friends, my dad's a lawyer. And then he says, how great is that? He made me again 10 feet tall. And my son does say that. Still. At 30 years old. That's the stuff of lawyer champions. These are the things that lawyer champions do. And Jim, that's exactly what you are. So please welcome me. Excuse me, please help me join, and all of you welcome the original lawyer champion, James A. Albert.
Perfect. Thank you. This is overwhelming. I wish my mom and dad had seen it. Thank you, Megan Tooker, Pat Waldron, Zach Goodrich, Dean Jones, Dean Anderson, Dean Edwards, Terry Howard, Zach Goodrich. I first walked into this classroom in 1981. How I wanted to be a Drake lawyer. And I've never wanted to leave. Because of you. And it means the world to me that you've all come back to this place where we spent 3 years together when you had the dream of being a lawyer. And I was a part in helping you reach that dream. Each of you a young Rocky Balboa. And me, Burgess Meredith. Mick, do you remember running through the streets early every morning? That was to get to 7:30 tax class with Monroe. Punching sides of beef in that locker, that was every class you took. Just have to pound it, grind it till you got it. You remember the chicken? You remember when you had to chase the chicken? That's 4 hours of Tepley's every day in the library. And every day in that old gymnasium, sparring, fighting, grinding, get through. You came to me once and you said, oh, the other guy's tough. And I said, listen, he's only a man. You're a tank. You're a greasy, fast, 200-pound Italian tank. Go through him. And you kept going, training for 3 years. You got better. You learned to land punches. And after 3 years, you were running up those steps. You had hundreds of kids behind you. And you held your arms up. You made it. You were ready for the ring. Just look at what each of you has done in your careers in that ring. Your heavyweights, you are lawyer champions. Pat Waldron told me a story just a year ago that I'll never forget. He represented, just a few months ago, a young man in his late 20s with autism. His parents had bought him a townhouse here in Des Moines. He was receiving property tax notices in the mail, but not opening. Someone from out of state bought his home at a tax sale. He moved to evict him. 3-day FED. And his parents called Pat and said, "You represent our son." Pat went to work. Found a flaw in the notice that had been sent. Went to trial. The judge ruled from the bench in favor of that young man, Pat. The kid turns to him and says, "Do I get to stay in my house?" Pat said, "You sure do." And the kid says, "You really fought for me in there." That's what you've done in the ring. You really fought for me in there. He says, "You really like me, don't you?" Pat said, "Who wouldn't like you?" That's what Drake lawyers do every single day. And that's why Drake's got a good name. It's because of you and everything that you've done as Drake lawyers. The people you've represented, the people you've fought for. No, you inspire me. That story inspires me, what you did in that case. Several of you were Galligan clerks while you were in school. The firm where I was of counsel for 28 years. Megan Tooker, you and I had that wrongful death case in Kansas. Rob Lance is watching from Denver. We had a 2-week trial in Estherville defending the city of Estherville. Nick Cooper's here. We had a 9-day trial in Arizona. Do you remember the Jim Baker case? Jim Baker, the nation's most watched televangelist, was sitting in federal prison up in Rochester, Minnesota, sentenced to 45 years. He would have died in prison. I read an article in the Atlantic about the jurors being questioned about their religious beliefs. I drove up, met with him, came back, and in this very room, and I'm looking at some of the faces of the people who were there, in this very room, I went through some of the, it wasn't a fair trial. And I asked, how many of you want to fight for Jim Baker, so if we can get him out of prison? As students, you did that. Did all that research for months and months and months. There was a hearing, and a few months later, and by God, the judge let him out of prison because of the research that you did. And he wrote about that in his book. He's got 3 pages about Drake law students. And I noticed, and a nice picture, by the way, and I noticed something else as I was rereading this last night. He makes a reference to Harvard. He was represented by Alan Dershowitz. Dershowitz took the insurance money. He was represented by Dershowitz. We come in when he's already in prison. You get the picture. And I'm talking to him in this prison, and he says, you know, Dershowitz never came to visit me. I said, what? Before he talks about Drake Law students who did all the work to get him out of prison, he makes a reference to Alan Dershowitz never even visiting him. So those Harvard students, that's where they stood. That's where they stood on justice. That's what was in their hearts. What was in their hearts was, let's read the dissent in U.S. against who cares. Let's put on our smoking jacket and go do something. It was Drake students who said, this isn't right. This isn't right. There's a man who's going to die in prison. This isn't right. That's a lawyer champion. No. Chris Bruns, Judge Christopher Bruns in Lynn County, was a Galligan clerk. In his second year in law school, Mike Galligan, he and I were very, very close. I wish he could be here. I did mostly wrongful death cases, serious cases, but he asked me to do one for him along the way. We had mandatory pro bono in those days. Now you pay $50 and you don't have to. Let me just tell you, you law students in the back, consider it. But in the years before we had mandatory pro bono, and Galligan had a mandatory prisoner rights case. Michael J. Gavin, public enemy number one, he led the prison riot in Fort Madison. He a leaderman, but he was a tough man. He was so tough that he had to be escorted around that prison with 4 guards. 4. He filed some prisoner rights case against the warden, and the judge said, well, this is colorable. We're going to give you a lawyer. And that was Mike Galligan, and it ended up being me. So by this time, Roxanne Conlon says, I hear you are representing Michael J. Gavin. And I said, that's right. And she starts laughing. She said, get a cheap suit. I said, what are you talking about? He vomits on command. He's a vomiter. And of course, he especially vomits on the lawyers who lose these cases. Well, he's been in prison since he's age 11. So, but well, that's his way of showing his dissatisfaction with any conviction or anything. He just throws up on his lawyer. And so it happened many times before, and so she says, get a cheap suit. I see an opportunity for Chris Bruns, second-year law student, and I say, Chris, would you like to second chair a jury trial in Fort Madison? He said, are you kidding? I said, no. And I said, but there's one thing, our client is trouble. Would you sit between our client and so that I can concentrate on cross-examining? I've got to cross-examine Warden Nix. Will you sit between? Oh, sure. We're going over there to meet him for the first time, and Chris reads the jacket. My God, he was convicted of nailing somebody to a tree in Illinois. Yeah, tough customer. But, so we go to, he's so rough that they roll in a trailer for the trial into prison. They weren't taking him out of the prison yard. They rolled a trailer in, so we had this trial in this trailer, and he's sitting there, and Chris Bruns is sitting there, and I'm over here crossing. Well, I'll be damned. It ends, and he doesn't throw up. He likes it. It was a, oh, sure, he finally had a Drake lawyer, for example. That was a difference. You go to Iowa, you get thrown up on. And he liked it so much. Of course, we lost the case, but I mean, you know. But he liked it so much that I got this at Easter time. Now this, of course, it's prison mail and everything. And there he drew a Easter rabbit on there. Now he's also got somebody strangling that Easter rabbit, but you just can't counsel the homicide out of some people. But he sends me this. Now where he gets this in prison, gift shop, I suppose. But sends me this nice card. Easter greets to all in your firm, Michael J. Gavin. Yeah, nice. Well, in the cases that come to mind, and tried to come up with some new ones. A lot of you have come a long way. I think one of the most meaningful cases I ever had involved a Drake Law student who called me one night. They said he was having some difficulty with the Nevada Board of Law Examiners. He had passed the bar exam, but they weren't going to give him his license. And I'd known him for 3 years. And I said, I want to come out. They were giving him a hearing. And I remember making that trip. And I remember when I arrived at the airport, every Drake Law grad in Las Vegas was there to meet me. And all of them are there because of the DELTs and the job seminars that we've had over the years that opened up the Las Vegas market, by the way. But they had their hearing, and I was outside waiting, and they had him in there. The powerful, I mean, all the power in the world over him, and they had him in there, and he came out and said, "Oh, they'll hear from you now." Tears. Said, "They're not going to change." And I remember walking in there, and there'd been some article in the Las Vegas newspaper about my Jim Baker book or something, and they started talking about that, and I said, I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about my student. You know the feeling. You know the feeling. Fighting for somebody. That's the feeling. That's what we do. We fight for somebody who needs us, fighting for them. That's my favorite case. I remember how I felt flying home, 30,000 feet, whatever, and just looking down and seeing all those lights. Man, that's living. That's living. Now, along the way, we had some fun. Have the officials cleared out? Time to let the monkey out of its cage. It was in this room that we had all the Delt parties. It was in this room where we would bring kegs of beer in. We would have Delt night. It was in this room, and that carpet would be soaked. We had a keg up here, and students would be soaked with beer. It'd be stinking, and of course they had a class at 7:30 the next morning. It smelled like Peggy's when you walked. It smelled like Peggy's. And David Walker would come down. And she said, "Were the Delts in that room last night?" No. That went on for years. And you see those pictures, all those pigs that we brought in here, year after year after year for the Kiss the Pig contests. You saw those pigs, huh? Let me tell you something. Saddam spent a lot of money. He wasted a lot of money. Those pigs, they're rooters. They dug up Drake's lawn, rooting, and then there's nothing more toxic than pig waste. Nothing more toxic. Saddam never came up with anything worse than that. Never. That's why Drake can't grow any grass back there. It's mulch. That horse, did you see that? That horse, 6 feet, sorry. That horse got 6 feet from the library, took one sniff, back. He was having nothing of it. Had none of that. Couldn't get him in that library. I tried. He was nothing. Lumps of sugar, nothing. Lance the duck. Where's Ken Watkins? The Lance the duck. Yeah. Did you see that picture in the slideshow? Drake used to have a duck who the psychology department taught to read. He was Lance the duck. He could read 6 words. They taught him to read 6 words. Lift your left leg, lift your right leg, peck, something else. I don't know what but you saw the picture. I would bring him into torts. I mean, I was fascinated by him. And he would sit right up here in this room, and he would go through his 6 or 7 words. The Lance the duck, and he had an office bigger than mine down in Olin Hall. And they gave him a graduate assistant, which they never gave me. He had a graduate assistant, but they taught him how to read. And they took him all over the country. He was on national television. He was on That's Incredible. I was reading the Drake magazine story from the 1980s about him, and they said, and one of the graduate students said, well, he was nice, all right, but he would get grumpy. She said especially grumpy when we took him in a van out to Durango, Colorado for some show. What? Put him in a box? Put this very intelligent duck in a box and haul him out in some van to Durango, Colorado, in a 20-hour drive? I'd be grumpy too. But they hauled him all over the country. But you look like a feathered Frankenstein. I mean, what is that? You teach him? Oh, we thought that we could teach a duck how to read. And they gave him a companion, a lady duck, who they called Guinevere. And as I was reading this Drake magazine article, the professor of psychology, who's Dr. Frankenstein of all of this, the professor of psychology said, yes, we got him a companion, but she was illiterate. it's rough. This is a rough place. It's a rough place. So we make our own fun. I guess that's the point of that. We make our own fun. Delp parties. Paul Carter, you brought your guitar into Advanced Torts that time. The midget case, we can't even say that, but it was, but you sang. I mean, what are they doing in Iowa? Nothing that's got any musical accompaniment for sure. But you make your own fun. Now, again, I hope that enough people have left that I can tell. The restrooms used to be pretty bad shape. I mean, Drake is cheap. And we're working to change that, but I mean, Drake is cheap. The men's restroom used to have dividers, rusted, I'm telling you, rusted. It was bad. It was nasty. It was very bad. And it would go on, and just terrible. But go on for years and years and years. So one night I said, listen, enough is enough. So I go out to Menards and I get a can of Rust-Oleum, and I just take care of it. You just take care of it. You just have to draw the line sometimes. You have to take care of it. So I took care of it. Did you know that I took care of it? Now, I don't know much about self-combustion and my job was to paint the damn thing, and airing it out I didn't think was my job. A little while later, the place caught on fire. All I know is it was the fire that forced Drake to fix that bathroom for a change. Mission accomplished. Now I'm going to avoid telling the stories of how you and your fiance and I would go to wrestling matches all over central Iowa when it was WWF. From Ames, we found our own fun. We found our own fun. Knowledge of the law is one thing. What's in your heart is another. You had the hearts of fighters before you even came here. Your first day in law school, Cale, Grant, your first day in law school was 4 days after I got back from my first trip to Belize. And Christian Fasalius and Nick Cooper and Jordan Smith had put together a slideshow of children who sleep on dirt at night. Half the children in Belize of high school age don't go to high school because their parents can't afford the $250 a year it costs to buy their books and uniforms. I'd seen all that. I'd seen the faces of human suffering for really the first time in my life. And I walked into that classroom and I showed you those slides, your first day in law school. And I asked you this. When you sleep on a dirt floor lined up next to your siblings and your parents, knowing that you're never going to be an educated person, what do you have to dream about that life holds for you? And I said, they need somebody to fight for them. Let's give them some hope. And that's when we started this. And you came up to me at that podium as you walked out of that class and you said, I want to help. And when I got down to my office, Grant Gangstead was there. That's how all of this started. And 6 weeks later, Your first semester in law school, we had our first auction. In Chinure Ucabiela's living room in Urbandale. Some of you were there. It was a small crowd in the living room. We had our first auction. I do remember taking the very rusted Drake, well, it was a coat rack. Well, we auctioned off anything we could find. We didn't have people working to get things for us to auction off. The inventory was sparse. First auction, 6 weeks into your first semester, we raised $6,000 with Drake Law students. Then we started to grow. Drake Law students, the Delts, Theta Chi, undergrad. Then we reached out to Drake lawyers. That's what changed everything for an entire country. And hundreds of Drake lawyers got behind this. And 14 years later, at our auction 2 months ago, we raised $520,000 in 3 hours. That took Drake lawyers. But that's when you become a lawyer champion. When you fight for people who have never had anybody fight for them in their lives. And that's exactly why that high school student in Belize said, I want to be a Drake lawyer. I want to come to Drake. I want to come to Drake University, and I want to be a Drake lawyer. You remember that old Jim in the Rocky movies? All of the money that you've given is earmarked for the renovation of this building. That was you know, you walk into this building, I mean, the moon, the face of the moon has more shrubbery. There isn't a cactus out there. You walk into this building and it's just like, there is literally gravel for 3 feet around this building. I was at what is the minimum security Eldora, wherever it is, a couple of years ago. Maybe there are prisons that are, this is, and did you see they put those 4 cement crypts on either side of the sidewalk as you walk in here? There's an agreement in writing that all that you've donated will be used to renovate this building, new carpet, but specifically professional landscaping right out in front using Matt Kaldenberg, Nick Scholl's friend, Matt Kaldenberg, professional landscaping, and my dream has been up-beam lighting all around the whole building. I don't know. I don't think we can say it'll look like the Bellagio, but by God, it's going to look. It's going to look like the downtown Marriott. And you know, it'll be beautiful. It'll be beautiful. And at Christmas time, there should be colors. But you know, I was coming back from having dinner with a student at Lucky Horse just a couple of weeks ago, and this building is dark. This is dark. There's no lighting here. It's going to be so much safer. Light up this campus, for God's sake, some life on this campus. Can you imagine? This will be the North Star on the entire Drake campus. That's where this money is going. So this is overwhelming. You know, let this classroom represent hope for all those students who sit in these seats where you sat. Hope that they can be like you. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for the friendship that I have with every single one of you. And I'm overwhelmed by everything that's been said. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all very much.
Now cut the ribbon, Jim. She'll get the last one.
Great scissors.